Dungeons and Dragons is awesome. But why are dungeons so fun? I mean, it's right there in the name, and it was a stroke of genius to put dungeons right in the name of D&D because they are so fun. But why? But why? Well, we're going to take a quick look at some reasons why dungeons are so fun and how you as a dungeon master can lean into these ideas and make your dungeons even more fun. The first one, a dungeon is a contained environment, right? Players and characters can go wandering off, but they can't go too far, right? You have this contained environment that heightens drama. If you have seen the movie Die Hard, you understand why that premise is so good, right? Because in Die Hard, our hero is trapped in a building. This contained environment heightens the drama. It heightens the tension that is all around the story. So lean into that in some way when you're thinking about your dungeons. This contained environment is going to increase the tension of your story and lean into that. In a dungeon, there is constant mystery and peril. Just around every corner, around every door, the players do not know what is coming. And so this is important when you are creating a sense of dread and a sense of mystery. A dungeon, it's just built into the dungeon automatically. So you can definitely lean into this in your description when you are describing dungeons, the hallways, the corridors, the doors. You can add details of, dripping water or moss, slimy moss or slime that is just growing on the floor, or a door that has a face in it, or iron-worked lion in a door, right? Those things are just going to enhance the mystery and peril. Players do not know what is coming. Anything can be around the next corner, from a gelatinous cube to a band of orcs to a lich king, whatever it is. So lean into that mystery and peril. Resource draining, right? Dungeons, long dungeons with many rooms can draw out all of those awesome powers and potions and cool things that characters have. Drain those resources down so that when they come to the final conflict, your players will have to use their imaginations and their creativity instead of just relying on some of the mechanics that their characters have. So you can use a dungeon to drain away those resources, take up some of those low-level spell slots, take up some of their equipment, rope and rations and different things like that. So the characters are always kind of constantly just having to think about resources and maintaining those. This will increase, again, the tension of your story and involve your players more and more because they have to be actively thinking about what resources they have, what resources they can spend, what resources they should save. Dungeons also provide a common goal for the characters in a party. Once they enter that dungeon, they have some kind of common goal, whether it's treasure, whether it's to save orphans, whether it is to defeat the Mad Queen, whether it is to clear out a goblin den, whatever it is, they have a common goal. So even if you have the one player who insists on playing the loner character who doesn't want to help the group and all the brooding stuff that comes with that, well, now once you're in a dungeon, you have a common goal. So even that loner character can help out the group because there is some common goal. Even if they don't care about the orphans or whatever it is, they are still in the dungeon and it becomes a common goal to reach the end of it and to explore it. Also, the promise of reward. This ties right into the last one there. The promise of reward is powerful to get players engaged into your game, right? Because if there is the thought of treasure, if there is the thought of magic items, if there is the promise of some great story payoff that is in this dungeon, then your players will be bought into your game and be ready to interact with whatever you're throwing with them there, because there's going to be the promise of a reward of some kind. And like I said, it works on all three of those. There can be a story payoff, there can be a treasure payoff, and there can be a magic item payoff. All three of those can work together in a way just to pull your players' interest into your game and get them invested in the story that is happening at the table. Dungeons are so fun that you can run other things like dungeons, right? I have run blank as a dungeon. You can run a haunted house as a dungeon. You can run a forest at nighttime as a dungeon. You can run a gorge as a dungeon. You can run almost anything as a dungeon and use some of these things that I have talked about, this contained environment, promise of reward, common goal, constant mystery and peril. You can use that to really draw your players into the game and invest them in your story. Also, if you are playing a different type of game other than D&D, or you're playing in a different setting, spaceships or space derelicts can be run as dungeons. Lab facilities can be run as dungeons. Office buildings, exploring an office building can be run as a dungeon, just like my Die Hard example that I mentioned, right? That can become a dungeon, and you can run that in a similar way that you would run a dungeon. And let me tell you, they are awesome. If you are playing a Star Trek game, it is a derelict ship in space. If you're playing Star Wars, it is an ancient Jedi temple. If you are playing Call of Cthulhu, it is a haunted mansion. If you are playing a modern superhero game, it is an underground lab where the evil scientist is conducting horrible experiments, right? These all can be run as dungeons. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're running D&D, not only dungeons, but you can run a forest at nighttime. You can run all kinds of things like dungeons and take advantage of what they bring to the story and to the game. All right, if you have any questions, guys, you can drop them in the comments below. If you want to learn about my DM resource books, you can check out dicegeeks.com, or if you want long form content, you can go to dicegeeks.com, where I have a podcast. It's also available here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for Dice Geeks.